Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Browning Harbor Marina and my global book launch of my novel, The Return of the Family Idiot. If you cannot hear me, thank you. If you cannot hear me clearly, please let me know. If any of you have iPhones or cameras and would care to get close and tape it, I'd appreciate that. I want to wait for the girls to stop bringing in drinks and then we'll start. Okay. This is called JAK, J-A-K. You know that feeling when words are coming out of your mouth and you wish they were not, but they just keep coming anyway. Well, that's how Reagan felt when he said to Jack, "So what are you all about anyway? I see you bouncing around, jumping in people's faces and blabbering about all these cocaine-fired adventures you've had and such. And you seem to have a brain in your head sometimes, but other times I wonder, so what's up with you anyway?" Jack leaned over, resting his forearms on his thighs and clasping his hands gently into each other. He looked Reagan straight in the eye. "Well, it's a sad story." His tone was one of mourning. "I figured as much," Reagan replied. Well, he thought he had as much. Reagan had met lots of messed up people in his travels and provided a sympathetic, non-judgmental ear for many a hard luck story. But what he was about to hear was more than he could manage in the end. The reader is forewarned. Jack began to speak in a tone that was almost clinical, as if he was talking about somebody else. He spoke slowly. "The mess began when I was born," he said. "My birth mother was a heroin addict. I was snatched from her breast the day I was born by Children's Aid and kept on a pediatric ward where I suffered 2 heart stoppages as I withdrew from drugs in my system. When I was 6 months old, I was taken into foster care." "How do you know all this?" "Oh, it's all in the file, the big file. When I became a ward of the state, all my medical files were kept together and incorporated into my psychiatric file. I've seen it several times over the years. Reagan, a private man in many ways, shuddered at all those people taking all those notes." Sorry for interrupting. Around the time I was 1, I was adopted by a fairly wealthy couple and apparently thriving. But when I was 3, my parents split up and I was left with my mother and her new boyfriend. When I was 4, the new boyfriend kicked me down 6 flights of concrete stairs and I broke almost every large bone in my body. Here. And he stopped. While saying here, Jack pointed with a full hand to both calves, both thighs, both forearms, both biceps. Reagan cringed. Jack held out a flat hand about 3 feet off the ground. And it all happened when I was only this tall. All Reagan could do was cringe in sympathy and outrage. All that came out of his mouth was a sarcastic, "Wonderful." Jack continued. "The parents du jour took me to the hospital claiming I had fallen down the stairs, but CA didn't buy it and I was made a ward of the state. The boyfriend did 3 years for assault and the mother disappeared after testifying against me. Apparently he had some mean friends. After 8 months in rehab, I was farmed out to another foster home and put up for adoption again. When I was 6, I was adopted by a couple with a daughter my age. According to the reports, we bonded well." Jack stopped and looked at the creek for a moment. "I remember a little bit of my time playing with just Giselle, my sister. She was my first real friend." Jack smiled a lazy smile. "So her dad was a stockbroker, successful. Her mom was a high school librarian and a decent woman. She treated me well enough. Not so Dad. When I was 8, he revealed he had a thing for young boys, and I was it." He looked Reagan straight in the eye and said, "So what do you think of that?" Jack had told the story before and had learned that it was one to be dealt out in small doses. It was not a tale for the weak of heart. That's why he didn't just blab it out to anyone. Every once in a while he would stop and check the pulse of the audience, look for a little confirmation and validation from the listener. Reagan looked straight back into Jack's uncertain eyes and felt his baby blues start to lubricate. No, Reagan thought, no. It cannot crumble before this poor soul has had a chance to lay out the whole story. I gotta pray for a happy ending. Holy crap, Jack, how did you deal with that? Regan envisioned himself tearing this man away from Jack and beating him to a senseless pulp. His testosterone speaks. Did you go to Children's Aid? No. How come? I was terrified. I guess so. What happened? When I was 10, he started selling me to his male friends for sex. Oh no, Regan cried inside. No, 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 no. He looked down at his shoes and he dragged his heart gently back off the ground and put it in his chest. He fought back a large tear and looked back up at Jack with damp but strong, sympathetic eyes. What a load you've been handed, mister. What a load. Yep, 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 was all Jack said. So how long did this nightmare go on? 2 years, until Giselle ratted into Children's Aid. So what happened to you? Off to foster care for another round on the auction block? No, the loony bin. I went psychotic. I would think so, Regan sympathized. I would think so. Regan spent 6 weeks in the loony bin himself. So he thought now that he had found someone common ground with Jack, how long were you in? 12 years, he said. 12 years? 12 years, Jack confirmed. And with that thought hanging in the air, a bell rang. Oh, time for meds, gotta go. And with that, Jack scurried way up the hill, ran into the house, and got in line for his evening pills. 12 years, 12 years. Regan would have spent 15 days his first time in the loony bin, and he'd be tortured enough by the outrage of it that he filled a 60,000-word report. He could not comprehend what 12 years might be like. And as his imagination began to run out of places to park the 12 years, the visions of Jack's story came back to him in a flood of horror. He looked down into the bits of flickering light in the stream and began to roar inside deep. Anger, his heartbeat quickened and his testosterone got pumping. In no time, the mild-mannered James Regan was ready to kill somebody. He roared some more inside, and he sat there and shook as the rage he felt boiled around inside of him. And he roared some more, and he held himself tight and gently but surely, and he breathed his way back down to earth. Having completed the testosterone exercise, his sympathetic, nurturing parts kicked in, and he felt true, honest, noble pity for Jack the wacko. He looked behind toward the house and around the yards, and there was no one around, so he let himself cry, and he shook. And he shook. Violent stabs of agony rocked his gentle heart, and he cried, 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 and he cried. His name was JAK, J-A-K, just a kid. Thank you.